I'm Gerald Bentley. This is LVWS Confidential. Today, we're joined by the Prince of Aviation, defying gravity one match at a time, part of Sky High, Mondo Rox. Mondo, how you doing?
Good, and you?
Good. Good to have you on here. Hopefully, we'll get a hot tag a little bit later on. But what I wanted to talk about, because you're part of one of the hottest tag teams going on the West Coast. Just curious, you're one of a lot of really good brother combos in tag team wrestling. What got you and Robbie started in wrestling? What led you to the pro wrestling world?
Well, it started. We were little kids. I remember we weren't really allowed to watch it, but one time I remember kind of snuck out of my room when my dad was watching it, and I got like a
Uh-huh.
glimpse of it. And that was like, from what I saw, I just saw a bunch of people surrounding a ring and some dudes fighting, and I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing!" And I kind of got sunk in from there. Me and Robbie ended up joining amateur wrestling because we thought that'd be the right way to go to become a pro wrestler. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So we did that for a good chunk of our life. And then after that is when we found a wrestling school, which brought us out to Las Vegas.
Okay, and not from Las Vegas. You moved to Las Vegas.
Yeah, we moved here from New Mexico.
Okay, yeah, probably not a lot of pro wrestling in New Mexico. And then where
Yeah, a
did you
little
end
bit.
up? Over at FSW?
Yeah.
Okay, and what was the response when you guys came in? Did you come in with the intention from day one, hey, we're going to be a tag team together?
Well, actually, I moved here by myself.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, because Robbie wasn't really pro wrestling yet. And I really wanted to do it. So I moved over here and I checked out the school and I did about 6 months as like singles.
Okay.
And I thought it was real cool and stuff. So I convinced Robbie, I was like, you would really like this. And I convinced him to move out here. And that's when we became a tag team.
Okay. And then how long ago was that?
That was about my fifth year was last July, so that was about 4.5 years ago.
Okay. And you've been tag teaming then for about 4 years?
Yeah, about 4 years.
What's the advantage? Because now on a national scene, the Young Bucks are the team that comes to mind. Matt and Nick Jackson. Is there an advantage to you guys having there has to be, right? Having grown up together, you can communicate in ways that I would think other people really can't.
Yeah, it comes with a lot of reps for like me and Robbie. I'm sure Young Bucks for sure. You have so many reps with the same tag partner, your brother, that you guys know each other just by giving each other a certain look or something. You know what the other one's thinking, really. uh, a lot of tag teams don't get a lot of reps together. Sometimes they're not fully committed to tagging, or they have different tag partners every now and then, and it
Hmm.
keeps switching. So when you tag with your brother, the advantage you have over all the other tag teams is you just have so much more reps.
Yeah, and then you can see it in watching some of your matches, just the double team moves, which I think were a key part of tag team wrestling, probably when you were watching and getting into it. The Rock and Roll Express, the Rockers, the Dudleys, even you get all the double up, the combination maneuvers, which you guys really excel at, and you don't see much. I think because of that random nature where people are getting together and they're tag teaming on a card, and then they may not team again for 3 or 4 months. It's hard to coordinate those moves.
Yeah, that's very true.
Which
A lot of our moves, me and Robbie hit countless times. So that's why we're able to be smooth with it. You know what I mean?
mhm. And that's where the Prince of Aviation and the Air Devil come from, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Two-time Big Valley champions, two-time Best of the West champions. Saw you competing for some championships in Arizona as well. How many
Yeah.
territories have you guys gone to now in the 4 years?
So far, we've done a lot of Northern and Southern California. Um, I didn't realize California was so big until we wrestled all over. Every time we go to California, we discover a new city and wrestle in a new city that I've never heard of.
Sure.
And lately this year we've been dipping our toes in Arizona. We never really wrestled there till this year, but the promotion that we wrestle for over there, PCW, has been a pretty hot promotion, and they have a really good draw, a good roster. So that's been a really good choice for us.
Yeah, and then I know you're looking to expand out to take to the air and fly a little bit further away. What are some goals for you and Robbie next year?
So me and Robbie felt like we've been kind of doing this loop for the last couple of years, this whole West Coast loop, and we've dipped a little bit in the East Coast. But what we really joined wrestling for too, other than going at the TV level, was because we want to travel and go around the world and perform. So we've been reached out to by some promoters in Japan and India and Mexico as well. So that's something we're
Okay.
looking into right now. Right now, me and Robbie are just getting our passports in order, and then as soon as that's ready to go, we can head out.
Yeah. What promotions have you followed in Japan? Do you watch a lot of Japanese wrestling?
I like watching the Noah and NJPW, and I watch a lot of Stardom and a lot of the Joshi wrestling. I'm a big fan
Hmm.
of that. A lot of my style is kind of modified from that style. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, it's kind of one of my favorite styles to watch.
Well, because there's a lot of animated and
Yeah,
fun
exactly.
moves. I mean, if anybody's watching this, if you haven't watched Maki Ito
Yeah,
wrestle, it's
exactly.
really entertaining matches.
Yeah, that's more
The
of what I like
cutest in the
more
world,
too.
right? Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. And then also some of that New Japan strong style where you're getting into the fighting, and that's an area where the amateur background can kind of pull in some.
Yes. One thing I've been working on blending was my amateur background with a lot of lucha libre and with a lot of the Japanese style that I've been studying a lot lately. Finding a blend between those two is something that I've been working on a lot lately, and lately I'm starting to get a good grasp on that. If you know what I mean.
Hmm. And have you been able to get some advice from some of the trainers and have up in FSW, Kenny King, D'Lo? I'm sure they can lend a little bit of insight into some of those styles.
Yeah, they're amazing coaches, and whenever they're there, they usually give us great drills. And they ask us if we have any questions. We usually ask them to give us great advice, and it's always a pleasure to train with Kenny or D'Lo or Sin. A lot of really good coaches.
I mean, is it as simple as, I mean, just people watching? I mean, they're probably thinking, hey, is it as easy as watching some matches online, saying, yeah, I like that, and then going to the practice facility and just drilling it to see if you can do it and pull the move off?
Yeah, that's pretty much the recommended thing to do because I have had times where I see something and I'm like, oh, I can do that. And then I go and do it and I couldn't do it. And I land on my head or
Yeah.
twist something and I'm like, wow, that looked easier than I thought it would be. So then you have to learn the mechanics of it, practice it a few times, especially if you want to do the same move in a live show in front of everybody. You know what I mean? You don't want to just go out there and
Hmm.
wing it.
Yeah. So the key is to be able to do it enough that it does look effortless
Yes,
and it looks
exactly.
smooth.
Yes.
Now, just getting to it, and you guys have a really good entrance and a good look with Sky High,
Thanks.
with the Top Gun motive, Highway to the Danger Zone. What made that the name choice? What brought you to that?
So our me and Robbie, I worked at the aviation for a good decade of my life,
Okay.
and I used to clean a lot of planes and stuff like that. And Robbie too, and our grandpa used to be in the Air Force and stuff like that, and that's kind of where we kind of got inspired from all of that. And being in the Air Force was a big dream for me and Robbie, but that didn't work out. Which our other dream was becoming pro wrestlers. So that's what we just
Okay.
kind of meshed the two and thought we'll just be high flying pilots in the wrestling world, and that's what Sky High came to be.
Okay. No, I mean, it's a great look. It's a unique look and kind of a throwback to the days with the dedicated tag teams,
Yes,
which you don't see as much of anymore. I mean, I guess in AEW you do, but really outside of AEW, it's a lot more random guys thrown together.
just a lot of mixed match teams, just two random people slapped together. I agree.
Hmm. Which makes it a lot harder to
Mhm.
to get over because of that coordination that you guys are able to do.
Yeah,
But
I agree.
who have been some of your favorite opponents to go against?
Some of our favorite opponents. recently wrestled Nick Xander and Papa Yase at Best of the West, and
Hmm.
that was one of my favorite matches. They're great to wrestle. The Stoner Bros, they always push me and Robbie to our limits and beyond that. They're a really good West Coast tag team that we enjoy working with. Death Proof is always fun to wrestle. Suavecitos, as much as we
Hmm.
hate them, as much as we rival them, a lot of our best matches are against Suavecitos because as much as we've grown, they've grown too alongside with us pretty much, and they keep getting
Sure.
better every time we face them. So they're one of my favorite opponents, to be honest.
Well, so more the dedicated tag team, the tag team specialists are the ones that you like going against.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense because you can have the most, probably have the most high impact matches.
Yeah, that's
Now,
true. It's
you've done a little singles work too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done some singles.
What, obviously, you wrestle more tag team. What is it about tag teams that you like better?
I like the art of it. I like all the mechanics of it, how there's so many moving parts to a tag team match. You know what I mean? There's four people, including and then five, including the ref, and just so much. When these tag sequences are done right, and when they're like, I just really like how things flow, like how reversals and how teams come up with these clever moves of combining both of their single stuff and making a double team move out of it. And I really enjoy like recently I watched Young Bucks and Hardy Boys that match, and
Hmm.
that made me just re-fall in love with tag team wrestling again. I was like, this is awesome. This is where me and Robbie got to be at this level and wrestling guys like this. So that's a lot of fun. Singles matches are awesome too, but it's it's one on one, just one guy versus one guy, and that's its own story. And those matches can
Yeah.
be classics too. But I just really enjoy the dynamic of a tag match.
What tag teams influenced you guys the most? Would it be the Young Bucks and the Hardys, or are there some others?
Mostly Hardy Boys. Edge and Christian was a big one. Me and Robbie's promos are a lot of people don't know this, but we got our promo style from Edge and Christian and Eddie Guerrero, Los Guerreros, because we always thought their skits and their comedy was awesome.
Hmm.
So me and Robbie found a way to be the baby faces, yet still cut our comedy promos on our opponents as well as still being a threat. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And Hardy Boys was one. Edge and Christian, like I said, enjoyed watching them a lot growing up. Young Bucks, I was a little bit older when I discovered them and stuff, so I didn't really grow up watching them too much. But that was definitely a team that I was like, wow, those are the guys we got to compete against. Like that's the guys I want to wrestle someday. Them and the Lucha Bros, I think they're amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So the bar that you want to hit,
Exactly.
and again, two sets of brothers.
Yeah,
So
again, sets
definitely
of brothers. Yeah.
there's a connection there pulling you together. So now guys have accomplished a lot and what 4 or 5 years in, so really just kind of getting your feet underneath you.
Yeah, we're still a lot of trial and errors.
And I know you said that next year you really want to push to get to Japan, get to India a little bit. What about in America? Are there teams that you haven't gotten to face yet that you want to face? Territories that you'd like to get into in the next year?
Yeah, me and Robbie are really interested in like the Florida East Coast, everything going on over there. Obviously, there's a lot of wrestling going on over there, a lot of poppin' wrestling going on over there. So there's a lot of teams over there we want to mesh with.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like we've done everything in the West, not everything in the West Coast, obviously, but we've wrestled almost everyone in the West Coast. So many different teams, and it's been cool and fun and all. But I can't. No team really comes to mind right now that we haven't wrestled that's in America, other than the ones that are at like AEW and like WWE levels and things like that.
Sure.
Aussie Open are awesome. I think they're cool too. We've been watching
Hmm.
them, but I mean,
Oh,
recently, I guess Mecha Wolf and Damian 606 is a team we want to wrestle for sure.
okay.
Yeah, me and Robbie wrestled Mecha Wolf a few times. Last time we wrestled him, he was tagging with Mil Muertes, and that was a really fun learning experience and good match. But yeah, they're the NWA. I think they're still the NWA Tag Team
Uh-huh.
Champions. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
definitely
they
we
multiple
definitely like
times.
to wrestle
Yeah, and
them.
that would be a good goal to achieve to get up to the NWA,
Yeah, definitely.
get a little national exposure, and definitely definitely a level that you guys could achieve. And just mentioning Aussie Open, if you get a chance to see them in a six-man match with Will Ospreay, That's an amazing team. Just watching their fluidity and just what Will Ospreay does to lift them up even another level.
Yeah, they definitely carry their own weight too. I saw them fight Death Triangle at AEW recently in a 3
Hmm.
on 3. That match was amazing. That was really
Yeah,
cool.
and
'Cause I really
then
like as much as tag team, I like trios too.
yeah, and you guys have done some trios. I've saw you in a couple of FSW casino shows with Bodie, the young
Mhm.
prodigy, with you guys. Got him
Yeah.
the matching bomber jacket.
Yeah. And
So
Bodie's awesome to wrestle with.
yeah, what's that like working with him? Because he's what is he now? 15?
Yeah, he's 15. Very talented. One of the like seriously one of the most talented kids I've ever met in my life. He tends to remind me he's a kid sometimes. Like I like,
Uh
oh
huh.
yeah, he's definitely a 15-year-old with the funny things he says, but still he's a lot better wrestler than a lot of adults that I know. A lot of grown men who's been doing it just as long as him. Because Bodie's actually the vet to me and Robbie. He's been wrestling longer than us.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm 5 years
Uh,
in. Robbie's 4.5 years. I think Bodie's like 8 or 10 years in.
Really? So he started
Yeah,
when he was like 6?
yeah, something like that.
Wow. And I was just thinking with Aussie Open and Will Ospreay, it's definitely a six-man you guys have to get into because then it would be the Prince of Aviation against the aerial assassin.
Yes, that's definitely something I want too. He's a lot bigger than I saw him in person. Will Ospreay a lot bigger than I expected.
He's gotten a lot bigger. If you watch
For being
some
a
of
high
his
flyer.
beginning matches, yeah, some of his beginning matches, he was really thin. He's really bulked up, but just he's an amazing wrestler. Now,
Yeah.
will you watch? Will you guys watch a lot of matches like that and say, okay, hey, that I need to do that. So you're constantly changing some of your move sets and trying to step it up a level.
Yeah, exactly. Because me and Robbie, our moveset, we try to keep it unique, and we really don't like a lot of people tend to get in the pattern of doing what they see, and a lot of wrestlers tend to watch what's going on in wrestling right now on TV and
Hmm.
try to copy moves or things like that from guys who are on TV who are much more famous and they're already doing these things. Like, you know what I mean? So me and
Yeah.
Rob, I like to study and we like to watch guys from wrestling from the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, Japanese wrestling. I like to dig where I don't think anyone else is really digging too much, and that's where we like to find our move sets. And then when we do study nowadays wrestling, modern time wrestling, is so we can figure out what's in right now as far as the flow. Like, do you
Hmm.
know what I'm trying to say? Because it's not really old
Yeah.
school wrestling days anymore. Like, we're not gonna work a headlock all night and get the
No.
crowd going nuts. Like, you know what I mean? So,
No,
but
but
we do appreciate the old school style.
yeah. So you want to take elements of things that you're able to watch and make them your own and put a unique spin on it,
Yes, exactly.
which takes a lot of time. How much prep time would you say you put in on a weekly basis just working on your matches?
Man, that's tough. I don't know. That's because I'm usually always on my phone or on my computer looking for stuff. Like I'm always watching wrestling or like I usually find gold when I where I don't think I'm gonna find gold. So I
Hmm.
always just watch random wrestling, random videos. Sometimes I'll watch crappy backyard wrestling, but I'll find some random unique move that some dude did that no one else is doing, and I'm like, okay, this guy's onto something here. I'll might as well just take that. He's not gonna use it, you
Okay.
know. But yeah, other than wrestling training, because I go to wrestling training about 4 times a week, and other than wrestling training, I'm either just trying to study wrestling really, and just trying to make things what me and Robbie can use, what me and airplane pun or spin I could put on a move or something, like the airplane spins and stuff like
Sure.
that. Just trying to really make our own unique style, you know?
Well, it's a huge commitment of time. I mean, just what you were saying, between the studying time and practicing 4 days a week, and then just the actual matches. You guys are really active. How many matches will you say you wrestle in a month?
In a month, on average of like 2 to 3 a weekend, probably like 12, maybe 10 to 12.
So that's that's a lot of time. I mean, that's a
Mhm.
big commitment. Now, 4 years in, multiple championships, outside of moving around the U.S. What's the goal next year in the actual Las Vegas wrestling scene? What do you have your eyes set on?
I feel like the only thing we really have left is winning the FSW Tag Team Championships. I mean, as a tag team, we've pretty much done everything else that we could do. Um, we could go to the other promotions and try to win tag belts, but honestly, me and Robbie's home is FSW, and those are the only, really only tag belts we haven't held. So we need to get those. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I didn't join wrestling to win the FSW tag belts, but they are definitely a milestone and accomplishment in our way to go to where we want to go.
sure. And what's the ultimate destination? Do you have a dream destination in mind where you guys want to end up?
Well, growing up, we've always wanted to be in WWE. We always loved the story. We've always loved all the wrestlers in WWE. It's always been the main goal. But
Hmm.
also growing up, we didn't have all these like options other than WCW, which where that went, how that went down.
Yeah.
Now we have this. Now we have AEW, NJPW is always killing it, and just Triple A's awesome, and Impact's. We recently just did Impact. Because they came into town, and so
Yeah.
FSW helped them out and stuff like that, and that was a great show as well. So just so many options for wrestling right now, and the goal really is just to get to that top level and wrestle the top guys in the world. You know what I mean?
Hmm. What was that like getting to spend the week with Impact? And they did a couple of shows and did a pay-per-view just recently in Vegas.
We worked with them a few times whenever they come into town, and it's always a learning experience, always a lot of hard work. Everyone's busy. Everybody that's involved with Impact is busy. It's just a couple days worth of just everyone getting together and making this show work.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, the wrestling was awesome. The show was awesome. Everyone was really nice. Everyone was pretty cool. So
Well, and there's definitely some connections. Chris Bay,
yeah, Chris Bay's there. He's
big
from
in Impact.
FSW.
Yeah, Kenny King's big in Impact. He's been a prominent part of the promotion for the last year or so.
Yeah,
And D'Lo.
D'Lo. Yeah, I think he recently just left. But I could be wrong. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, as he was doing the commentary.
Yeah,
But it is great to see that you have those multiple national promotions coming, and then Ring of Honor should be starting up again in December. So
yeah, that's true.
another,
Ring of Honor was
yeah,
awesome.
another one that's going to be going around. So there's definitely opportunities coming up that, like you said, they just weren't there 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And then the biggest thing I think really for you guys just talking about wrestling all those matches in a month, COVID really shut everything down for what the better part of 2 years. What was that like getting through that period? Were you guys able to still work together and get some reps in?
That period was rough. That was a nightmare for everyone. Everybody has their own
Sure.
pandemic story. Mine was gyms were closed. I was eating a lot of fast food. I gained a lot of weight.
Hmm.
Made wrestling a lot harder for me. And then wrestling, that was the honestly, I hated wrestling like that. I hated the no crowds. I hated the cinematic matches. I know we did them and did the best we could with cinematic matches, but
Hmm.
let's be real, we were only doing them because we didn't have crowds. Otherwise, we
Yeah.
wouldn't do them because it's just not the same. Like even whenever I wrestle today, just the energy you get from the audience and the energy from everyone being there, even watching it, it's not as entertaining without a crowd. You know?
Yeah. The WWE did the Thunderdome, and it was neat for the first couple of weeks, but then it did just feel really weird seeing all the computer monitors. And
Hmm.
yeah, I felt bad for Drew McIntyre winning the heavyweight title in an empty WrestleMania.
Yeah, things like that. Having your world life moment in that kind of situation, it's nobody's fault. It just sucks that's what it is. That's what happened.
How many matches were you able to do during the pandemic shutdown? Did you just got a couple in a month and that was about it?
No, we did way more than we should.
Did
We
you?
wrestled
Okay.
way more than we should have. I feel like there was a lot of I feel like there was I never thought this would ever happen in the world, but there was like underground pro wrestling going on for a bit.
Oh, okay.
Like shows that I'm pretty sure weren't legally supposed to be going on. But
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm getting booked. I'm trying to get reps in. It's pandemic, so I'm wrestling in it. There's a lot of precautions. There's a lot of no crowd. And oddly enough, what I was trying to get to is that we wrestled a lot during the pandemic, way more than I expected.
Hmm.
Just a lot of empty arena shows, a lot of cinematic matches. But like I said, I hated it.
Yeah. Just trying to get a lot of content up on YouTube and
Yeah, just trying to get content up on YouTube, and I don't even care to go back and watch those matches because I had my pandemic weight on. I was a lot greener than I am now. There was no audience, so it's just not my favorite phase of wrestling.
Well, there is something to be said too for just the energy. I was just at a independent show here in Kansas City recently at Central States Wrestling, and just a crowd of 800 to 1,000 people. It makes an enormous difference because you can feel the energy in the room. And I know with an FSW show, one of their casino shows, you get up to the Silver Nugget, you get that crowd in there, and just knowing, okay, hey, we're at a different level, we're at a casino, that gives you a lift, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's why me and Robbie moved to Vegas too, because I didn't even know. I didn't really watch a lot of indie wrestling when I lived in New Mexico. I didn't really know a lot about indie wrestling. I just watched WWE. Really, that's really all I watched because
Hmm.
it was mainstream. And when I moved to Vegas, I went to a FSW show, a Sam's Town show, and I was like, "What? I didn't know indie wrestling could be like this. Like, this is amazing. This is the production and there's so many people." And
Yeah.
I just thought it was like basketball gyms and stuff like that. Like, you know what I mean? And parking lots. So when I saw that, I was amazed. So it was definitely an honor, and it was a short-term goal of mine to get on those shows. So whenever we do get to do those shows, it's definitely rewarding to be able to perform in front of that kind of audience, especially because we're not at a TV level yet.
Well, but I mean, in a way, I mean, it is like a super independent because you have the FSW network, it's available nationally online. They
True.
have the app where you can scroll through and watch matches, and then the casino shows are up on Fight TV, right there
That's
at
very
the
true.
same level as GCW.
Yeah, that's
So
true. Plus
it's
the film quality is amazing too. The production and the commentary and everything.
mhm. Yeah, definitely raising it a bar, and I think something that separates Las Vegas is the amount of promotions, the coordination, the number of wrestlers in different markets, like you were saying in New Mexico, in Missouri, in a lot of states, there's one promotion, they do one show a month, and they do a great job. And they're a lot of fun, but it doesn't give the talent, the fighters, a chance to get in there and get those reps and do 8, 10, 12 matches a month. Where in Las Vegas with Big Valley, with Versus, with Dark Arts, with Pride Style, with Grab House, with FSW, you have the opportunity to work with a ton of different fighters and get all those reps in. That's got to be a huge advantage.
It definitely is because, like I said, another reason why I moved to Las Vegas too was what I noticed about Las Vegas is everyone comes to you. Everyone in the world comes to you. Like Las Vegas is so a lot of people who live here and grew up in Las Vegas don't realize how the world portrays Las Vegas, how they see Las Vegas. We all like from New Mexico, I thought it was just a strip. You just think it's a
Hmm.
strip. You think it's bright lights and casinos, and that's what you. And a lot of people from New Mexico still think that's what it is. So when they see me and Robbie out here wrestling, they think that we're just performing on the strip every night.
Yeah.
So I didn't know there was such a culture out here, and like people actually living here, and there's high schools out here and all that. I didn't know all that. But like I was trying to say though, like the world comes to Vegas. And if you live outside of Vegas, I've seen a lot of territories where there's no promotions around. Like you have one promotion, maybe they run once a year sometimes.
Yeah.
Or the next promotion is like 13-hour drive to go wrestle for some other promotion that's in a parking lot or something. Like it's not
Hmm.
even the best option and work the same guys that you've been wrestle the same guys you've been wrestling all the time. You know what I
Yeah. So
mean?
it's hard to get growth
Exactly.
because
But in
you're not
Vegas, it's just
challenged.
yeah, and in Vegas, it's every style, every size, gimmick, person, wrestler, character, blue, green, red, everything there is comes to Vegas, and you get to sample all of them. You get to wrestle everybody and get a feel for all of them.
Yeah, and everything's bigger in Vegas. So you get
Yeah,
the spotlight.
definitely.
Now, kind of coming down, winding it down a little bit. We'll move it into the championship mode here. We got the LVWS Confidential Belt. Who would be your dream opponent for you and for you as an individual, and then for you and Robbie together?
Just in all wrestling, like any promotion.
Anybody wrestling now? Anyone semi-retired? Just no wrong
Okay.
answer.
That's a tough one because there's so many people, like, so many people I looked up to wanting to wrestle. Like Rob Van Dam would be a big one for sure because
Sure.
he was always my favorite growing up, and he's still kind of active, isn't he? And
A
he
little
even lives
bit,
here
yeah.
in Vegas.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he's gave us a seminar once, and that was cool. So he'd definitely be somebody that I would love to wrestle. Somebody who's more younger though and more like active on the scene would probably be uh, like Seth Rollins. I'm a big fan of his wrestling. He's someone I would wrestle. Brock Lesnar is people. I know it's not a popular. A lot of people get mad at me when I say this, but he's one of my favorite wrestlers too growing up. So
You know
he'd
what?
definitely be someone.
He is a transcendent star because he can come in, he attracts attention, and he crosses sport boundaries because the guy is a legitimate one of the best MMA fighters ever. You could easily argue, played in the NFL and tremendously impressive pro wrestler. So yeah, it's a great answer.
Right? Yeah, Brock Lesnar would definitely be a dream of mine to work with him. And then as tag teams, as far as tag teams go, man, Young Bucks and Lucha Bros are really the two teams that I really Hardy Boys obviously, but I mean like right now,
Hmm.
Young Bucks and Lucha Bros. I just love their tag team. Then also they're brothers too. I think I'm biased towards that,
Sure.
not just for work, but yeah, they're also brothers too. So for me and Robbie to get in that mix is something I really want.
Okay. Uh, favorite opponent so far?
Favorite opponents so far. Hmm. That's a tough one because I've wrestled a lot of really talented people. Like I wrestled Cepha before, Solo Sokoa.
Okay.
He
Yeah.
was really cool, and he's one very memorable one for me. I've also so what I really enjoyed working. Nick Xander, and Papiase. I know they're like not the biggest name. I know Papiase has a lot of experience, and Nick's not the biggest name right now. He's still up and coming, but they're two of my favorite recent opponents that I've had. They're always a pleasure to work. Uh,
Okay.
but to be honest, my favorite though, honestly, that would have to be That'd probably have to be Sin, my coach, Sin.
Sin Bodhi.
Yeah, I
Okay.
wrestled him with my first year, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't wasn't my best moments, and definitely I'm still a student now, but I was more of a student then too. But Sin's always a pleasure to wrestle.
Well, he's definitely an influential coach and performer
Hmm.
because he gets mentioned by everybody. So his influence is far and wide.
Yeah,
What a what about your favorite type of match?
favorite type of match. Recently, me and Robbie did a doors match, and that was
Okay.
definitely one of my favorite matches I've ever had.
So like a tables match, but you had to throw somebody through the door?
Pretty much tables and mat. Yeah, right now I guess because the recession, we're not doing a lot of matches on the indies. A lot of doors matches are
Doors
popular
are
right now. I guess they're
doors are
cheaper.
cheaper.
Yeah, doors are
Oh, they
cheaper.
don't have legs, so you just set them up, I
Yeah,
guess. So what
but
would
yeah,
be you do you bridge the door between the railing and the mat or kind of
whatever you can
prop it up
find.
on the turnbuckle?
Chairs. Ask some fans to get out of chairs real quick. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But I honestly, I've never been a fan of death matches. I've never been a fan of all that hardcore stuff and the tacks and the glasses and the
Sure.
glass and all that. I've always just it makes me cringe. I love horror movies, but that stuff's just gross to me. But I'm not gonna lie, the doors match we did and our recent TLC match that we did, or no, it was a DLC, doors, ladders, and chairs.
Sure.
Those were actually a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. I was like, I didn't know I would like this that much. But yeah, so I probably want to do a lot more of those in the future.
Okay. Well, and we did find another way to address the problems with inflation. It's not just gas and food, it's folding tables versus plywood
Yeah.
doors. So
Yes, exactly.
doors cheaper than tables, so we're going with doors. And it makes it even harder because in the spirit of tables matches, it's usually the person arranging the furniture that ends up going through the table. And
Hmm.
setting a door up, I think, would even be harder. So you
Yeah.
probably want to be the person who's waiting for the other people to set the door up than the person setting the door up because it's got to take more time.
Yeah, seriously. I was the one that set up a door and I got put through it, so I know how that feels.
Yeah. And one one last question. Favorite movie?
Like just of all movies?
Yeah, favorite movie if it influenced you some.
Man, favorite movie. That's a tough one. Uh, honestly, because I like a lot of horror movies.
Okay.
And I was a really big fan of Devil's Rejects. It wasn't very influential on me because I don't have like a spooky gimmick or nothing like that.
Yeah.
But it was definitely something I really enjoyed, like the soundtrack, and I like the art of the film and stuff like that. So
Okay. Fair enough. Hey,
definitely first one to mind.
no wrong answer. But I do want to thank you for stepping in. The Prince of Aviation. Hey, here's one last question. Where did the Prince of Aviation and the Daredevil come from? Good
So,
nicknames.
because Robbie Lit's always been, he's Robbie Lit, and he tends to want to do some daredevil things sometimes. So we didn't want to just call him a daredevil. We thought, what if we call it the Airdevil, like
Okay.
pun thing. And the Prince of Aviation thing is really like that's just me uh wanting to be the king of the sky, I guess. and
Okay.
me and me foreshadowing that's what's gonna be one day.
Okay. Hey,
Yeah.
fair enough. That's great. Well, hey, thanks for joining us. Thanks for stepping into the ring on Las Vegas Wrestling Scene Confidential. Got the music coming up here from Bears and Company. You can find them on iTunes. Here on YouTube, you can subscribe to Las Vegas Wrestling Scene on YouTube, LVWS Confidential, every week. You can find it, and of course, you can find out all the information about the matches going on in Las Vegas at LasVegasWrestlingScene.com. Mondo, thanks for joining us. We appreciate getting a chance to take a trip up into the sky, going first class up in the sky.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll be back again in the ring next week. Thanks for joining us tonight on LVWS Confidential.